If all three of your quarterbacks were healthy, do you know which one you would select at this point, and then kind of give us an update on where guys are health-wise? You got
we have a slew. We have a slew. Yeah, it's. I mean, not everyone's never healthy at the same time, right? And I wish we already had, or we haven't had our meeting yet. And when you talk about Reese, you talk about Addie coming back, talk about Cade, who I think's getting close from what I've heard. I got to hear, in the meeting today, but I know he lifted and everything went well, which is good. Met with Sully, he had imaging, so we're waiting to hear someone that's smart enough to know what all that means is going to tell us. So there's a whole lot of I don't knows right now, which is not great answers, but it's where we're at this point of the season. But it'll be interesting to see. And then there's a guy like Jackson who played a little bit, and he needs a ton of reps. So it'll be interesting on the practice field tomorrow because we have no clue. I don't know who's going to be out there. I'm hoping by the end of the day I do, or at least tomorrow morning, so we can just continue because each guy, especially at the quarterback position, each guy's different, right? And they each need to work on different things. And so Jackson just needs reps. He's been a scout team guy running cards, and he's getting back to playing and running the offense we ran in the spring or in the fall when he got some of our reps of running what we do. And so I'm excited to give him a ton of reps in the bye week. This is a unique time to have a bye week for him. And the other two, I just got to get healthy, so they can be on the field and help us win.
But if they were both healthy Monday, let's say, do you know what you would do?
Oh, no, I would let them compete. It'd be a great week. It'd be like a real live, you guys have both done a lot of great things and you affect our offense differently. Let's see who's playing well. It'd be a great battle. I wish that was the case, but rarely is that the case. Camp's like the one time that you can have a real live competition. But I don't think that's going to be the case. That is my guess. That's not going to be the case.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Tim, with all due respect to the final two games that you have, the transfer portal opens in 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
How much of a priority is the transfer portal going to be? How do you kind of balance that time preparing for the bowl game and the transfer portal? And, is quarterback going to be a position that you potentially look at in the portal? And if so, how serious are you going to kind of dive into that?
Yeah, I think every position in this state of college football, right? I think every position every year you have to look, right? And that doesn't start. How many days did you say?
December 9th.
So how many days that is. So it's coming. We're definitely going to look into it. We got to look at each position, and there's roster limits now, so there's a lot of moving parts. And I know Tyler and Coach have been working hard on that. I'm excited to have a meeting later this week to learn a little bit about all the work they've been doing for the past 6 weeks, just to kind of see where they think the holes are, and we'll have a great discussion and figure out. But I think you have to look at every position on both sides of the ball every year, right? It's just it's a new way of college football. So it will not take away from the last 2 weeks. I mean, we got two more weeks to play to get better and continue to teach, and we are still in the beginning stages of installing the offense, and we called the play last week. It was the first time. I've had it in the game plan. We just finally called it. And Sully ripped it, and Gil caught it at the one, and it was fun to finally be able to run it in a game, and we run it in practice a ton of times. We've got to the point where I think we pretty much repped everything in practice, but to be able to go out there and execute in a game was great to finally get that play off the ground. I didn't think I didn't think Jackson would be the first one to throw it, but he was, and he ripped it, and it was a little bit behind. It was in front, and we would have walked in the end zone, but that's a play that I'd like to continue to grow. But yeah, so we're going to really focus on that the next 2 weeks, but we're definitely going to meet about it. This is the week to meet and talk and figure out what the plan is, and once it opens up, we're gonna have to be active in it, I think.
Tom Kaker, Hawkeye Report. Tim, Jackson shared a little bit about how you found him story. Can you go into more detail on that? Did you know about him when you went to the showcase thing? Or?
No. The story is simple. It was, the spring portal opened, and I got on it and walked. There's not a lot of people on it. I heard about how great it was, right? And that was December 1. So I was all excited for it to open up, and it opened up, and there weren't a lot of names on it. And so very, very limited amount of people that I was interested in that had actually had playing time, and I'll never forget, it was actually Coach Budmeier, and I was kind of down in the dumps, and he's like, hey, you've developed quarterbacks your whole life. He's like, why don't you watch all those guys that are on it, their high school film, and maybe we develop one. Like, so I never thought about doing it that way because you want a guy with experience like Sully, and we got Sully. But I mean, who knows if we're going to? Sully had a lot of options, right? So so I literally watched every guy in the portal that had never played, because it has how many reps they've had in college, and I loved his film. If he was in high school, which he's not, but if he was in high school, I would have recruited him, off that high school film, and so went down there to. See him throw and see it live, and just really got to know his coach and started the recruiting process. And lucky enough, we did get, Brendan, which changed things a little bit with Jackson, but we kind of hit it off, and we were lucky enough to have him come, and he ended up playing, in his home state, UCLA. It was a very unique story.
John Seppe with Gasesh. With obviously part of Brendan's game is his mobility and his running. Do you try to hold that back at all, or at least try to get him to slide when your quarterback depth is as precarious as it has been?
Yeah, you try to keep him on the edges. A lot of times on the edges you can protect yourself better. My biggest concern with any quarterback that's playing is that you go through your progressions. I do not want to make it back at football, drop back, and run around. And so we had him in designed runs maybe 3 times in the game. I think he had 9 carries or 6 times that I didn't want him running, taking unnecessary hits, and things like this can happen when you're not progressing, or you rely on your athletic ability instead of your being a quarterback first. And the running part is a great added bonus. It's icing on the cake, but first things first, right? And that's something we've always been working with. And he has the ability to progress. He has the ability to throw the ball. But guys that have the ability to run sometimes, leave the pocket too early, and it's something that definitely happened. It caused turnovers. You can't turn the ball over and win games, and that's what we did. And he learned from it. We had a great meeting yesterday. I met with him again last night, and so hopefully this is a great moment for him to see it, learn from it, and even on the one that he got, hurt on. I mean, the guy's what he should have been. I mean, the guy's open, and he's stressing out and feeling pressure that wasn't there, and he ended up getting out and didn't see the guy that hit him on the side, which is unfortunate. But when you watch yourself and you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it, and then it ends up you take a hit, an unnecessary hit, it really hits home. So I'm excited about his growth from this point on, because I explained it to him those of us that have kids, it's like they want to touch the stove and you slap their hands, say don't touch the stove, it's hot. And then what do? They reach again, and you're like, hey, don't touch the stove, it's hot, and eventually they need to burn themselves. And when they do, you're like, then they're not going to touch the stove ever again, right? And so, I kind of told that analogy in my quarterback room, like, you have to live it. My freshman year, I played 4 years. We started off 0-9. I got hit too much, I held the ball I did everything wrong, and then I remember our 10th game, we won in triple overtime, and our 11th game, we won 72-7. And then we were on. We had to learn. And we did a lot of learning, and my body somehow made it through that year and played the next 3 years and had a lot of fun playing. But so it was a terrible thing that happened, turn the ball over like that, but you got to learn. And so I'm excited for his growth from this point forward.
Scott Dockman with The Athletic. I was interested in seeing what are the kind of the tangible traits that you're looking for when you evaluate quarterbacks, and what are the intangibles that you feel are not only prerequisites but are mandatory in order to be successful in your system?
I think the biggest thing is that you got to be a natural thrower. I mean, that's what people, I think, miss the boat a lot. You look at, Jackson is a natural thrower. I mean, the ball comes out with unbelievable tempo and spin rate. And so I think that's the biggest thing is that's first and foremost. And people sometimes, they'll cut corners on that one to try to get a guy that can run, or, Second thing is footwork. I'm a big believer in footwork. It's really hard on a high school film to figure out who can think. You don't know what they're being taught, But you'd be amazed when you watch a guy throw the ball on time on film. I know the timing of a hitch. I know the timing of a dig. I know the timing of a curl. So when I see him throw a curl, is it 3 and a hitch? I see him throw a slant, is it a left-right ball? And so you can start slowly figuring out if he can make a decision, right? And so I put a premium on their high school, although I don't know what they're being taught. I put a premium on their ability to throw the ball on time. Because if they are, it tells me 2 things. One, they have pretty good feet. And two, they're making the decision to anticipate the throw, right? I remember recruiting, Kirk Cousins or Scott Told. They had the best feet I've ever seen. Balls out on time every time. Kirk's still doing it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Second hitches to the back every single time. It's an impressive thing. And it doesn't mean they're necessarily processing information really fast, but I haven't met many people that have great feet and great timing that aren't processing information really fast. So I think that's where some quarterback recruiting gets, people miss, and then the icing on the cake is their mobility. Can they be a phase 2 quarterback? I explain it in 3 phases. Phase 1 meaning you throw the ball on time. Phase 2 meaning do you have the ability to work a pocket and buy time? Guys like Peyton Manning, Kirk Cousins. I mean, there's tons of them that can slide, step up, and buy themselves extra time in the pocket. Roethlisberger, you can go on and on about great phase 2 quarterbacks. And phase 3 is when it breaks down and you got to go. And you can ask Sully. You ask him. He was a phase 1, phase 3 last week. He was 1, and he kind of bypassed 2. And if he would have stayed in 2, he could have thrown a lot of balls. And he said it to me right after. You watch the film and you can see it. So, so those are really important phases. And can they do all 3 things? And so, and we have drills because some of these things can be improved upon, right? If the more you do it, we have unbelievable amount of progression drills. I learned from Tom Clements up in Green Bay. He had a bunch of great progression drills, and the more you do it, the better you are. And then you add a moving pocket along with the progression drill. We got a long way to go. The fun is in the work, but they're starting to see the things that we're doing in practice happen in the game. And sometimes it's really good because they do what they're supposed to do and rip it and it works, and sometimes they don't. And then they look back and said, if I would have done with that drill, it would have worked. So we're learning, we're teaching. We're late in the season, but we're still building, which is the fun part with our group right now, is that we're still seeing improvements, and we're changing the main piece a lot, which is interesting, but the improvement, is they're starting to see it and see the success that it can have and see some of the negatives that can happen.